Hello, viewers. Welcome to my show, MAO Chat, Season 1, Episode 5. Today's guests are Andolyn Medina and Averie Bishop. Andolyn is a doctoral student at George Washington University. She's a former Miss Virginia's Outstanding Preteen and Miss Virginia's Outstanding Teen, and was first runner-up to Miss District of Columbia 2000.
Thank
Hi,
you for
thank you so
having
much for
me.
having us.
It's going to say the least. We recently transitioned to a pass-fail scale, so it kind of alleviates some of the stress on finals, but definitely still a lot of work. It's been exciting for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, similarly, it's still going. We're right in the middle of finals. I'm in my second year, so in second year, it's what they say is our hardest year. In
Oh.
addition to coursework, we also start seeing patients. So because of everything happening with COVID-19, we transitioned to a telehealth model, where
Oh.
essentially the same way I'm talking to you all is now how I do therapy with my patients.
Wow. So both of you have a lot of.
Do you want to go first, or are you okay with me
And
going
yeah,
first?
I can, no problem.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So I started at the age of four. Four
Oh.
was a pretty big year for me. I learned how to read. Like it was the year that my mom decided to get me into a lot of activities. I was into piano, gymnastics, like you name it, I was probably doing it. But I was a very shy 4 year old. So my mom, I'm still very shy, but 4 year old me was like horribly shy. And so my mom thought that pageants would be a really good way to sort of get me out of that shyness.
Okay.
And so she would have me, go over to neighbor's house and sit and talk with them or ask, cashiers at the grocery store to ask me questions, anything to just sort
Hmm.
of get me out of it.
Oh.
And she thought that it was a good way to get me involved and also to practice my talent. She knew that I really loved singing. I didn't know
Hmm.
how to sing, but I loved it. And it's the age that I started learning opera as well. My voice coach told me, well, I only got talked into opera because I wanted to sing like Beyonce. So he told me that opera was the foundation of the voice, and if I learned opera, I could sing like Beyonce. And it just so happened that I, developed a love for both pageants and opera, and the rest has been history.
Wow. And okay, well, I was a late bloomer, so I didn't start at a very young age. I think I was around the age of 15 or 16, and my mom found out that there was a pageant that was specifically for Asian American women in my community.
Hmm.
And so I kind of was just thrown into it because my mom wanted me to find a deeper connection with my culture and my ethnicity. And instead of having, for example, a swimsuit competition. Instead, we have a cultural attire competition where we
Oh,
get
I
to
see.
wear, yeah, it was really exciting because we all got to wear cultural attire that represented our countries. And so I had an amazing opportunity to represent the Philippines. And ever since then, I've been addicted to watching Miss Universe, Miss USA. And I'm just so grateful that my mom threw me into the deep end for the
Hmm.
first time when I was like 15, for sure.
I love that.
So,
Yeah, we love moms. Do you want to go
Do you
ahead and
want to
take that
take? You
first?
can you can take it if you want to.
Okay, I'll go first. So for me, last year for my very first time on a national circuit, it was an incredible experience. I really didn't know what to do for preparation. So coming into this year, I feel like for me, preparing is all about getting to know who I am
hmm.
and really knowing my values and beliefs. Because last year, I'm going to be honest, when I walked into Miss Texas, I definitely experienced imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I was surrounded by incredible women who were
Right.
all extremely successful and had achieved so much in their life. So during those 5 days, or I think it might have been 7 days of competing, the entire time I kept thinking to myself, wow, am I good enough? Is
Wow.
there more that I could be doing? Should I have done this instead of this? And so this year, my concentration is more on just being concrete
Hmm.
in who I am and what I believe in, so that when I do
Right.
go into Miss Texas Week this year, I won't have those sort of doubtful thoughts in the back of my
Hmm.
head.
Yeah, so I would say, one of the things that I really love about Miss DC is this focus on not just preparing for the pageant, but overall to be your best self.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And sort of, if it doesn't work in the business world, it's not going to fly in Miss DC. It's not going to fly in Miss DC either, which I love. So a lot of my prep has been more so based on what is overall going to make me a better person.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And focusing, on making sure that I'm keeping my mind healthy and keeping my body healthy as well. So I
Hmm.
continue to work out even though we don't have a swimsuit portion, because I still think that it's really important to stay
Mhm.
physically healthy. And then the rest is just, sort of making sure that I'm doing what I'm supposed to with school, making the grades I need to make, um, and also just staying involved in my community. I think service is one of the top most important things that you can do as a title holder, and something
Right.
that I'm personally very passionate about in my own life. So making sure that I'm still involved in DC and the community, and giving back any way that I can.
Right. And I think back to what Avery.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. So my platform is Demand an End, Stop Human Trafficking and Child Exploitation. And
Hmm.
I got started with that. So my master's is in forensic psychology from GW, and I had to complete an internship at the end of that. And I interned with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and their Family
Hmm.
Advocacy Division, and was often charged with calling families of missing or exploited kids, and
Oh.
also reading victim impact statements. And so that was the first time I became aware of human trafficking, and
Hmm.
also became aware of uh, how like I'm like losing the word, but um, how it's everywhere. It's in everybody's backyard, and I think
Wow.
that there's this feeling that
Mhm.
it's not happening here, it's not happening in the U.S., it's happening
Hmm.
other places, when it's a huge problem here. And so, quite honestly, it terrified me. I have family back in South Carolina, small town South Carolina, and I began to think of my little cousins that are facing a world that they just aren't prepared for. And that
Wow.
made me want to educate them, make them more aware, but also provide more advocacy to prevent some of the stigma that surrounds human trafficking victims, and the laws that don't help them but help the offenders, and sort
Wow.
of tackle it in this global theme. And so while I have been involved with a lot of organizations, right now I have been working with Fair Girls in DC, where I provide trainings on human trafficking 101. And I also work with the Metropolitan Police Department to provide resources to victims in the most impacted areas of DC.
Okay.
Wow, that's incredible. Oh, I feel so nervous
Thank you.
coming after that. Oh
No.
my gosh. So my social impact stems from my personal experience as a first generation college student.
Mhm.
No one in my family graduated from college, so I felt very confused and lost and very isolated during the process. And so in 2015, my mom and I, we founded our nonprofit, the Too Long Foundation, which initially began by providing scholarships to young girls in Southeast Philippines. There, a lot of girls can't afford their school uniforms, they can't afford transportation to their schools, they can't even afford school supplies or their lunches. And so we created the foundation, raised funds here in Texas, and then we sponsor girls in Southeast Philippines. Now it has expanded threefold. Not only do we provide access to education to schooling in Southeast Asia, we also provide funds for agricultural sustainability education, access to water and irrigation education, also access to entrepreneurial skills education. So that's the component for Southeast Asia. Here in Texas, under my social impact statement, I'm also providing college, first generation college workshops to children in Dallas ISD, because when I was growing up in North Texas, there was, I mean, there was such minute access to how to fill out a FAFSA, how to write a resume, how to go in with interview skills so that you can nail your college interview. And I had no idea that there were full ride scholarships for people of color, for people from specific classes. And so for me, I'm just trying to mitigate that gap between accessibility to education. And I'm hoping that in the future we can expand not only in Asia, not only in the Philippines, but to other countries in Southeast Asia as well.
Cool. So let's talk.
Ooh. I mean, I can jump on. I'll go on. I'll do this one first. Yeah, my
Okay.
pantsuit definitely. I don't know how to start. I always get the question of why did I choose to wear a tuxedo slash pantsuit for evening wear. First, it was cheap. Okay, it was less than $1,000. It was $150. Come on, I'm trying to save money and reap the scholarship benefits. So I'm not gonna lie. First, it was to save money.
Okay.
Second, I wanted to do something that I could rewear over and over again. I'm in law
Okay.
school, right? I'm in law school. I need to wear pantsuits to work. And so I thought I can't wear a gown to work. So I'm going to wear a pantsuit. And then third, what is another reason? Oh, your other question was who is my style icon? Love Beyonce. Who doesn't love Beyonce? And who else do I love style wise? I really think it's just Beyonce. And then maybe a little bit of Audrey Hepburn,
Yeah.
sprinkled in there for the
Okay.
classy elegance. Those are my two inspirations for style. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I think my vision for my gown originally was to wear gold because I love gold.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or it's usually so like as you know, Jason, because you've known me for like basically my whole life.
Mhm.
Um, I've always usually worn yellow. Yellow is like my favorite color. It's my go-to.
Ooh.
But as I've gotten older, like I've
Mm-hmm.
still loved yellow, but I've also loved gold. And so I
Mhm.
went to Henry's Cloud Nine in Ohio, and I asked for gold. But they gave me the dress that I wore, which was more of a rose gold,
Okay.
and it just popped on my skin in a way that like the gold just wasn't hitting. And I loved, so I also cut my hair within the past year or two,
Okay.
which was also different. So DC was my first time competing with like a really short cut.
Uh-huh.
And so I wanted to do something that was going to accentuate that. So like a little bit of the turtleneck, a nice back, like having my arms out,
I see.
just something that was going to elongate me. And so that was where I went with the gown that I chose. But
Mhm.
style icons. So I like doing something that's like gonna push the edge a little bit, but get like
Oh.
Mhm.
right there before like
Yeah.
going off it. And I also love something that's simple and classy. So I would
Mhm.
second Beyonce. I
Yes.
also I also love Kim K. I love her style
Ooh.
and Rihanna. And then because of my mom, I love Jackie O. So like a mixture
Mm.
of all of those people. Uh,
Well, if you so I run and not just run, I do marathons and half marathons, but a lot of
Oh,
people don't think that's fun. So I guess that probably shouldn't be my answer running.
Right.
I'm one of those people that doesn't think it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
um, but so for me, I had to let my dog down because he was getting a little rowdy. But he is a 2-year-old Shishan and Shishan. He's a Shih Tzu and Bichon mix, and his name is Knowles after Beyonce because I'm obsessed. So he takes up the majority of my time. But I also have been getting on this track of reading a book a month. So that's been really fun for
Oh
me.
wow.
And then a big thing in DC is brunching. And unfortunately, we can't do that
Mm.
now, but this is
Right.
season. And so that's what I would usually be doing in other circumstances or traveling and visiting wineries. In general, or just, or like in general? So of course my mom, because of everything that she's gone through and done in life, she's one of my biggest inspirations and motivations. But I think overall the first person that came to my mind when you said that was Caressa Cameron, who is Miss America. Daddy, please stop. Um, So, because I grew up in the Virginia system, I was fortunate enough to grow up during the time that she was also competing for Miss Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And so she was definitely one of those motivating sources to continue competing year after year when I was, watching her and emulating
Right.
her. And I remember one of the years that I was competing, Virginia usually has like a reception line, and I went around and she looked at me and she said, "So you got this year, right? Like you're gonna do it." And I
Mm-hmm.
remember thinking, like, "Oh my God, Caressa Cameron, like, how do you know who I am? Like, how do you know who I am to encourage me to
Right.
to say all of this and to believe in me?" And it's a little things like that, like being who you are, but still taking the time to know the girls that are coming up under you and to still
Mm-hmm.
pour into them, that are just absolutely amazing. And that's something that Caressa has been able to do with me. She's been a lifelong mentor, and even though she thinks it's crazy, I know her as like Caressa, but I
Yeah.
still fangirl over her like crazy as Miss America. And there was one time, I had a Miss America book and I asked her to sign it, and she looked at me and she's like, "Really, Andolyn? Like really?" Like, but she's still like so phenomenal, and I still fangirl over her to this day.
Aw.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm not gonna lie, of course, my first answer is gonna be my mom too. I mean, who doesn't
Mm-hmm.
look up to their mom? My mom faced a lot of adversity. She's the inspiration of founding our nonprofit, which also is my social impact statement. She was from a family of 11. Her mother died at a very young age. Her father was an
Wow.
alcoholic, but she was a maid for a very wealthy Chinese family, and she saved enough money to send her other siblings to school rather than sending herself to college. So she was
Mm-hmm.
extremely selfless in providing for her family. And then, second, I just finished Michelle Obama's book, Becoming,
Oh
and
yes.
I am absolutely obsessed with her. One of the things that I found so touching in her book when I finished it was that she went to law school and she talked about how isolated she felt and
Mm-hmm.
how she also experienced a little bit of imposter syndrome. And for me, going to a predominantly white institution, which is SMU in the South,
Mm-hmm.
Texas, I also feel that I sometimes don't belong in comparison to everyone else who comes from very wealthy families, who have legacies, who have had parents who are attorneys before them. So, reading her book really made me feel that I can find strengths in my adversity and the challenges that I face. So, ditto to Michelle Obama.
Cool. So you guys compete in private interview, evening gown on stage question, talent. What is your favorite phase of competition? I'm just curious.
Interview, hands down.
Interview.
Yay!
Really?
I don't know what it is. Why is it always interview?
Why do you guys
It's
like
just
interview so much?
I oh,
I think
you
it's
go
just a
ahead and
chance.
answer.
Yeah, I think it's just a chance for the judges to get to know you better. I used to be really,
Mhm.
really nervous about it. I would need like a Pepsi before every interview to get energized. But once I started realizing that there's like really nothing that they can ask you that you don't
Mhm.
know, and that the whole
Mhm.
purpose of it is just to get a better understanding of you, it really took a lot of the pressure off and became a lot more fun for me. And
Mhm.
plus, I love learning about current events and history and social things that are happening. So I think I also love the challenge and the risk of not knowing not knowing what's going to be asked of me,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to meet those demands. It's fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So, you guys have been very successful. We talked about how you held previous titles. What advice would you give to girls out there who are younger than you, who are competing like Annalyn? I know you were top 10 at Miss America's Outstanding. And what advice would you give younger girls out there who are competing, both of you?
From my understanding, I may be speaking incorrectly, but with Miss Texas, there has never been an Asian American woman to represent the title. And
Really?
when I was a kid, at least I think, I'm pretty
Wow.
sure. I
Mm-hmm.
could be wrong. So whoever's watching this, comment below if there has been someone. But for me, when I was growing up, sometimes I get the question in interview is why do you dream of becoming Miss Texas? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
always honest and I tell them, I have never dreamed of becoming Miss Texas because I didn't think it was a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never saw someone who looked like me, who was a reflection of me, or who represented the community that I came from. And so as I compete for Miss Texas, I hope that I show that it is a possibility. You don't need to
Wow.
have a woman of the similar characteristics,
Mm-hmm.
similar facials, or the similar culture or ethnicities to know that you can dream to be Miss Texas, that it
Wow.
is a possibility. And so I'm hoping I'm forging that path for other women who might feel the same that I did when I was a kid.
That is excellent. I think you already answered my question, or partially, because the next question would have been like, what would you want to be remembered for or something? But I
Yeah.
think that's excellent. But
Thank
Andolyn,
you.
what do you think to my previous question?
Yeah. So I think that there's two things I would share. The first is to take a break when you need a break.
Mm,
Oh,
So I competed for for a very long time. And one of the things that I loved that I was able to do was to take a break when I needed one. So I took a break, I think, when I started college just to be able to experience that for the first year. And I took a break to be the cherry blossom princess, to be able to learn more about the world and different
mm,
cultures. And I think that those years that you need for yourself are just so important to experience what's happening in the world around you and to get other world experience.
mm-hmm.
The other one would just be that timing is everything.
mm,
So one of the things that comes to mind is my last year competing in Virginia before I came to DC.
Okay.
I was sort of on the fence. I had just been accepted into GW's doctorate program, but I still had Miss Virginia to compete for that summer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a matter of either I was going to win Miss Virginia or I was going to go to get my doctorate. And I think
mm,
I was really closed minded at the time. And I sort of had this feeling like I'm either going to win Miss Virginia now or I'm going to go and get my doctorate and I'm not going to compete in pageants again because it was my
Wow.
mindset that once I started my doctorate, I wasn't going to stop. And for
Mm-hmm.
mm.
Miss Virginia, you would have to give up that year. And
Right.
so going into that year for Miss Virginia, that pageant week, I just honestly prayed to do my best and to have peace. And I never prayed to win. I
Hmm.
prayed honestly to come out of the come out of the pageant with the decision made because I couldn't make it myself.
Right.
And so obviously when I didn't make the top five that year, I was sad. I had a moment of disappointment, and then I went backstage and I checked my phone, and I had a text from my dad that said, "Congrats, you're going to GW's doctorate." And I was like, "Oh my god!"
Aw.
Wow, that was the other dream. Like that was
Yeah.
I had two amazing options,
Mm-hmm.
and I think to myself, like if that hadn't worked out that way,
Mm-hmm.
who knows what would have happened next, right? Like
Mm,
being able to move to DC and go to GW allowed me the opportunity to compete for Miss DC. And then I think to even that point, if I had won Miss DC this year, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go to Sweetheart. And Sweetheart was an absolutely incredible experience that
Mm-hmm.
sort of showed me what it would be like to be Miss DC and what I'm made of if I do get a chance to compete nationally. And so I think it's just recognizing that there's so much more that you can take out of a pageant
Mm-hmm.
than a win if you focus on more than just a crown. Like you could take
mhm.
out so much more.
Okay,
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
almost seems like you guys answered my last question, but I'll ask it anyway. But
Whoops.
the last question is like, let's say you're crowned, you're Miss Texas, you're Miss DC. What would you want your legacy to be? What would you want to be remembered for?
Hmm. So for me, I think one of the things that I love about Miss DC is how unique every Miss DC is and their personality and their careers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it really allows them to bring something different to their job each year for the next Miss DC to sort of build upon. And so for me, when I think about my legacy in general, I think about service. But when I think about pageantry, I think about the sisterhood and the mentorship that
Mm-hmm.
I've been able to gain. And so, with that in mind, I would really like to help grow the teen program in Miss DC. It's
Okay.
something that I'm really, really passionate about. My teen years were some of my most formative years, and having this sisterhood kept me motivated and on the right track. So I would want to help grow the teen program. And since we don't have locals in DC, I
Mm-hmm.
would like to try to find a way for the Miss girls to get connected with the teen girls at the very beginning when we have our orientation week, so that we can start building that networking at an early age. And I think that that'll help the teen girls also continue to grow into the Miss program when they see how much that we're pouring into them. And we just have so much talent and intelligence here in DC. And I want those girls to be able to take advantage of what this organization has to offer in the same way that I was.
Excellent. What about you, Avery? What would you want to be remembered for as Miss Texas?
Well, from the very short period of time that I have been with the Miss Texas organization, I have learned that the title holder who represents Texas has hundreds and hundreds of appearances throughout the state because Texas is such a large state,
State.
right? So she has three appearances every day, 360 days of the year, and
Hmm.
she's impacting all the communities here in Texas. For me personally, it's a little difficult because my social impact not only impacts communities here in Texas, but also communities across international borders. So,
Hmm.
my vision, if I were to become Miss Texas, is to show that the Miss Texas title holder can not only impact our communities who need us here in Texas, but
Hmm.
also give back to communities that are not our own, that desperately need our help, not just in the United States, but across the world as well. I have a very large vision for Miss Texas becoming so much more than our state. I envision her being a globally minded person who can not only impact our state, but also countries around the world.
Excellent, excellent. I would like to thank you both for your time. The Miss District of Columbia pageant is or competition is August 2nd, and the Miss Texas competition is August 10th through 14th. I'll be watching, and I wish you both the best
Thank
in
you.
August. I
Thank you
wish you
so
both the
much.
best. Thank you for your time, and thank you for being on my show.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
To the viewers, once again, thanks for watching my show, MAO Chat. This was our 5th episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to many more. Some of our future guests are Jen Corey, who is a former Miss District of Columbia, Catherine Putnam, a former Miss Louisiana, Simone Esters, who is Miss Missouri 2019, and Brianna Mason, who is Miss Tennessee 2019. If you would like to donate to the show, because the show is funded by me, if you enjoy the show, if you like watching, feel free to donate to my Cash App. It is the $ and then JTROBIN. So please feel free to donate. Once again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to more shows. Have a good day, everyone.